Oh, are we there?
Hey Matt, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. How you doing?
Good, yeah, all right, thank you.
Good
Heat wave,
stuff.
isn't it? Proper like
What's that?
proper warm right now. This is so ironic, isn't it? The weather. It's been
I
a pretty good summer.
I did almost contemplate doing it in the garden, but I think my laptop would explode with the heat. So there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff.
How's everything going? All right.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, just I think we're just clambering our way for that little bit more detail now to be able to move things forward. But it sounds like it might be a week or so away from sort of knowing a bit more about when we might play and what that might look like. So I think then once we've got a little bit more detail, it will definitely feel like things might progress quite quickly, which would be good. So
Yeah,
been a bit of a waiting game for sure.
we're all hoping, aren't we? You've got some exciting news this afternoon, which by the time people probably see this, it would have come out, I think. So do you want to just give us a quick rundown of that for those that won't have read it maybe before now?
Yeah, so I mean, we're thankfully now we're in a position to confirm some Western Storm players, which is brilliant. So I'm sure lots of you would have read about the fact that there's some retainer contracts being offered to kind of cover this period of time where obviously full-time contracts were meant to have come in and they haven't been able to because of COVID. So yeah, it's great to be able to announce that we've got 3 girls on these retainer contracts, which is brilliant for them. All are or have been quite key players in the Kia Super League in the past, and I think they'll be really good for Western Storm. So we've got young Wales cricketer Danny Gibson, which is great. Obviously, a hugely athletic, kind of high potential player who's obviously on the England academy. We've got Sophie Luff, who's a Somerset stalwart who has kind of carried Storm home in many a game, and who's a great sort of, I guess, local role model for what this programme is going to be all about. And also Fee Morris, who has played her cricket for the Vipers, and also down in Hampshire, her county cricket. But Fee actually lives in Bristol, so she's actually a local girl who's travelled out of county to play her cricket. So obviously with these new sort of full-time structures coming in, it's great that we've got Fee back in the Southwest.
Yeah, cool. I mean, Luffy's a good example, isn't it? As you say, because she's kind of, I don't know, she's kind of the epitome of where the girls' game was and maybe where the girls' game's going. She's a good example. Freya Davis is another one for you guys probably at Storm. You look at probably 4 or 5 years ago and where they are now, it's pretty exciting, I guess, isn't it, for where the girls' game's going?
Yeah, it's really exciting. And I think that's what Kia Super League was so good at doing. I think it gave those players the platform to really test themselves at a higher level. And those girls in particular you've mentioned have grabbed hold of those opportunities and turned them into something quite brilliant. And the following that Luffy now has, and she's genuinely like a local hero in Somerset. And
in Somerset, isn't she? She's
everybody loves Luffy, and but she's a brilliant example of a player who's worked really hard at her game, taken advantage of the opportunities that have been there, and she's now benefiting from these new structures. So it's great to see people like Luffy, who have done the hard yards over a number of years and been a really consistent performer in county cricket and also sort of the Kia Super League, getting rewarded for that effort. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, good for her. I mean, you just talked about new structures and obviously we haven't had a chance, as you say, to kind of really kick it off with everything that's gone on. But do you want to just, in real, I don't know if you can do it in a nutshell, I don't know how long we've got, but in terms of, there's been a big change, isn't there, structurally to the women and girls game, I guess. How does, because obviously Storm is now kind of all-encompassing the southwestern Wales, isn't it? Which maybe wasn't the case, if that's fair.
Yeah, that's right. So I guess Storm's previous life was as a Kia Super League, one of the Kia Super League teams, and it was essentially, whilst we do work all year round, it was fundamentally focused on kind of a 6-week period over the summer, which was almost a drop in kind of franchise competition. Moving into this new world, Storm is it's a fixed kind of full-time sort of semi-professional structure that's going to be, I guess, the pinnacle of domestic cricket in the southwest. So anything sort of, it's going to be the top level, I guess, in the region you're going to be able to play before obviously higher honours of England academies and England programmes and things like that. So I guess it's a new structure that's going to be embedded in a year-round capacity that's going to be able to provide the top sort of, I guess, high potential youngsters on an academy programme and the sort of top 15 to 20 sort of women's players the opportunity to be part of a more professional structure with us having a team of staff that are designated for the women's game, which is something we've not really had before. We've not really had that level of investment to support the players in a way that you might perhaps see happen in the men's game. So it is a really big step forward for the women's game. And it's just the timing feels, there's no great time to have a pandemic, is there? And I think we're all, feeling the consequences of that. But yeah, it was just ironic, I guess, the timing of it. We were so on the cusp of just all this really exciting stuff, and all that really exciting stuff will happen. It's just obviously the time frames have had to be adapted accordingly. So it's really exciting that Stonewall, we've gained Wiltshire in our region, which is brilliant, and we've gained Wales in our region, which is fantastic. So I think it gives us a brilliant talent pool to work with, and some really engaged county cricket boards and supportive first class counties. So I feel quite excited and quite lucky with the region we've got, and the quality of both players and people involved in those organisations.
Geographically, we've got quite a big spread, haven't we? All the way down to kind of Penzance, all the way up to North Wales, if we're going to kind of take in all of Wales. So we're quite lucky, aren't we?
It is huge. Yeah, it's probably one of the biggest. I think the Southwest is quite a challenging region geographically anyway, so sort of one way up and down it, and anything else is quite complicated to get around. So that's definitely going to be one of our different challenges that we have that maybe other regions don't have, is that we are covering such a big area, and I guess it's to be a little bit creative about how we can service that area and make programs work. So, where possible, we don't have players that are doing huge amounts of driving to come to Storm, but maybe trying to take Storm programs nearer to players where we feasibly can. So I think the way sort of certain programs are created in our region might look a little bit different to others, because we are quite different. We are a huge region, to cover. So we'll just have to sort of, I guess, cut our cloth accordingly.
Yeah, cool. I mean, I was going to ask you about challenges, but yeah, that's probably one of the big. What, besides kind of obviously the structural change, which is the really exciting bit, what really excites you kind of next, obviously once we get past this next 12, 18 months, what's the really exciting bits for you that stand out for this in your role?
Yeah. That's a really good question. I think there's the obvious part is building this new structure, I think. So obviously the fact that we are going to be going out for recruiting staff, we're going to be looking for a full-time head coach, a senior talent manager, physios, all of those things. We've never had that dedicated bespoke resource before at the women's game. So I think that's quite exciting to build that team almost, to get some really great people on board together to kind of further the cause and build these structures for the women's game that will radically change it. And I think that's a really exciting prospect. I also think the academy program has massive potential as well. So I think that's a really cool program. I think that once we can get that up and running and built, we're going to see a lot of, I guess, best talented youngsters across the region getting a lot more in the way of contact hours, and getting a lot of high quality support that some may get, but others may not. And I think the fact that we're going to be able to offer that more consistently across the region is something that's great. So, I mean, in the short term, I think, looking at sort of the talent pool in the region we've got some really exciting young cricketers in our region. And, I guess at this point, the world is their oyster, really. And it's exciting to think the progress they could make with the right support and how quickly that could come.
Definitely. And I guess I was going to say kind of what is, because Storm you guys have had quite a lot of success. It's 4 years, isn't it? I think it was.
Yeah.
So, you guys have always been challenging, and you've benefited from having, really strong foundation to success. And general manager you were, wasn't it? Of Storm.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So it's kind of a bit of everything, I guess. I was kind of, handling sort of player contracts, to then sort of kind of quite a lot of operational stuff with the team, but then also working with sponsors, and so many different elements to it, which was actually a great kind of learning experience to learn how different elements of the game come together, because it is about cricket. There's so many other elements to it as well that need to function to actually work effectively as a group and achieve things. And that was a really good insight into all the different elements almost of beyond cricket, what goes into building something sort of successful. So it was challenging at times, because I was juggling that with a role in Gloucestershire as well, in a women and girls capacity there. But it was a really rewarding few years, definitely. And Trev Griffin did a fab job as head coach. We had some great leadership from the players as well, obviously having Heather in the side. And I think we had like one stage.
What's kind of made that group really? What have you seen that's made that group so? Because you've kept the core of that team pretty much, haven't you, for kind of the whole period?
Yeah, Yeah, we were quite lucky, I think, maybe comparing to other teams. We had quite a stable team. So I think we always had a core that was very solid in Storm, which made it much easier to bring new players in around quite an experienced player group, that we didn't have too many radical changes year on year. So it was the odd change, which I think made it probably a little bit easier for players to come and settle in to quite an established squad. I think we had a set of staff who worked really hard and cared an awful lot about Western Storm, and that goes from the coaching team who are directly running it, but also, the staff at Somerset and Gloucestershire who would be putting huge amount of are also in us. Oh, can you hear me?
Oh, we've had a little blip. Sorry, back up about 15 seconds if you're still there.
Got you there.
Luckily, recording can pause and resume, so we haven't lost too much.
Oh, well done. Oh, that's good. I wasn't quite sure. I was just saying, really, I think a big factor was the staff. We had a very committed set of staff who were very knowledgeable, but also cared, immensely about Western Storm, and just went above and beyond on so many counts to give the girls everything that they could need to support them. And I think that also kind of went into the off the pitch stuff as well. So we had some fantastic time and support and expertise coming into Storm from Somerset and Gloucestershire, and obviously a top class facility in Exeter that we were based out of. So, it felt like we had so many strengths to that setup, and everyone kind of pulling together, I guess, in that same direction to make Storm really brilliant. And on the field, we had some great leaders as well. So I think at one stage we had potentially, 3 international captains in our squad and an international vice captain, which, when you're looking for player leadership and kind of sharing of knowledge and insight, that's a pretty cool place to be. So there was a lot of leadership skills from within that team as well, which I think, again, kind of really benefited maybe those county players coming in to that environment to just soak up so much sort of top quality knowledge.
Nice. Did you get involved in coaching yourself? Because you've done your 4, haven't you?
I have. Yeah, I have. The intention was always to do that. And in year 1, I guess my role started out as general manager / assistant coach. And it became really clear that kind of I was only sort of working on a 2-day-a-week basis for Storm. And it just almost became impossible to deliver both elements of that. And so year 1, we kind of got by in the carousel, but it was pretty, building something new is always quite hectic anyway. And so it became pretty clear that coaching capacity needed to be bigger than what I could do in a split role. And so actually then kind of Trev Giffen came on board as head coach, and kind of that assistant coach team started to grow. And from there, really, then my role became more about kind of making sure Western Storm worked as a franchise. It had what it needed to succeed, and to sort of, I guess, make sure that overall it was operating well, and the cricket became part of a function of mine, but a less significant function, as obviously Trev took more on as head coach from there.
I mean, from a coaching angle, the girls' game is transformed, as we've said, probably on the pitch significantly. From a coaching angle, what, from your experiences in girls' cricket, what are kind of the standout bits that differentiate, that make them special compared to the men's game? Or is there anything that you've seen in the women's game that think, we want our young girls doing X, Y, Z? We want, these are kind of some of the standout things we want our young girls that hopefully in 4 or 5 years are going to be getting involved in some of this. Anything that's picked up on that?
Yeah, I think there's definitely been a shift in athleticism. I think that those fielding standards have been something that we've seen dramatically improve. So I think alongside that, the expectations around strength and conditioning and fitness are increasing all the time. The physical demands, as the skill level gets higher, the physical capabilities need to grow with that. And so I think, really, we've seen the likes of it, mention her again, but Sophie Laffer, Danny Gibson, if you see the 2 of these field, they are outstanding fielders, and really they've played quite a key job in shifting that bar upwards as to where it needs to be. And I think that's certainly in the last few years, that's been a real area I've seen take a massive sort of leap forward, perhaps. And I guess in the women's game
last year, I seem to remember.
That Alex took a few worldies for us, and it's amazing really to think Alex was was probably 17 last year, just turned 18 like a couple of weeks ago. And, you know, that was the sort of stage that she came into, and she was pulling off some outstanding, you know, things. She didn't just come in to be part of the team, but she at times pulled out some stuff that, you know, was outstanding on any level of the game. So I think that's, you know, that's really now where we want that bar to be, and kind of trying to get the standard up to those girls and let that be the standard of things and keep pushing things forward is really key as the game moves forward. And, you know, actually we all know how important that taking that one run out chance that might come a game, or that one half chance into turning it into a fielding dismissal, it turns games. And I think that's become really clear. You know, certainly in the female game, we've seen that area move forward. But I'd also say from a batting perspective, we're seeing players strike the ball a lot cleaner. You know, we're seeing a lot more boundaries in the game, perhaps historically, than we would have done. And I think that side of the game has moved forward as well.
Yeah, cool. I mean, I guess my last one for you is, and it's a bit of a tough one. I didn't prep you for this one, but
That's all right.
Like, obviously during this time, you know, there's going to be a lot of, not necessarily fighting for other sports, but, you know, we're obviously hoping we can get something on this summer so that we, you know, hopefully we don't lose anybody. But what would you kind of say to any young aspiring girl, I guess, across our whole southwestern Wales region that, you know, we shouldn't need to sell it to them. That's not quite the way I want to say it. But, you know, what would we kind of say? What would your message be to kind of those girls that, as we say, 4 or 5 years, we hope that they're somewhere in the mix?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it, right now? Cricket's feeling it really badly because we're missing our summer. I think there are winter sports who are missing their off season, and so that puts cricket in a different position to others. We are probably missing the bit right now that everyone spends all winter looking forward to, and that's really difficult for everybody. And that's right down to the youngsters who are, you know, kind of on their early steps of cricket, right up to those who want to be sort of training and competing for Storm. So it is really tough. But I think, you know, all the things that are coming into place with these new structures, you know, they're here for the long haul. So it's temporarily, as it is frustrating for those people, I think it's just to hang in there and, you know, with the constraints we're all around to train and do as much as you can to kind of keep that love of cricket there. But I guess it's just that assurance, that wider assurance that over time, you know, these structures are coming, they're not going anywhere. And whilst, you know, it's hard now to see the progress, you know, the ECB's new strategy was always a longer term plan. So I guess it's just remembering it is coming. All those opportunities will come down the line, and I guess to stick with it, keep training hard, and keep that love for cricket, because it will come back. And I think once it does come back, we'll probably all appreciate it in a way that we, you know, perhaps didn't, or in an enhanced way before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that would be the case. Yeah. And obviously the role models, and the more success. I'm sure that, as we said, the Luffies and some of the others are role models anyway right now. So it's trying to build more of those role models, I guess, over time, isn't it? And have that kind of knock-on impact.
That's exactly. I mean, we're still hopeful we'll get some form of this new women's domestic comp this summer, and if we do that, then that at least gives some sort of women's cricket in the spotlight this year to keep it in people's minds. But, you know, I'm really aware that, and the players are really aware actually of the role that they play as well in growing the game. And I think, you know, we've not really ever had a player in Storm who hasn't got that before. I think they understand that their role is to help others love the game and be excited by the game. And so that's a really big part, I think, of how we've always gone about things and how we will continue to do so, is to try and make sure there's a close connection between the players and between Storm with those young girls who are maybe starting out and in their first season or coming to it. And, you know, historically, in sort of Storm and its previous guys, we did girls' camps and things specifically where they'd come and meet the players and be coached by some of the Storm girls and get T-shirts and all this cool stuff. And, you know, those are things that over time we would really love to carry on and do, and actually do it in a broader region, with Wales and Wiltshire now obviously in that region as well. So they're all the things that we want to do to try and engage and to kind of get those girls excited about cricket and realising that they're part of something much bigger, and it's, you know, there's lots of great opportunities ahead for them. It's just the timing, isn't it? Timing is everything. And, you know,
well, you guys did a lot of stuff in the community, didn't you? I've seen bits over the last kind of 12, 18 months. The Storm have definitely been kind of visible, haven't they, in the community? You've done some school bits and bobs, haven't you?
That's right. So we were fortunate in the KSL that we got a bit of support from Chance to Shine to be able to send ambassadors out into schools, festivals, or into schools or clubs to do masterclasses. So we've been quite lucky. We've been able to get players out and about to do these things. And I think, whilst we didn't have a real direct recreational remit in the KSL, we were really, really aware of the fact that we probably wouldn't be doing our job properly if we weren't positively impacting the recreational game in some way. And so that was where the girls camps came from. And we kind of also had a Storm Champions initiative, which was almost like an introduction to coaching, 2-3 hour workshop of getting females who are new to cricket running some activity for others. So people who are playing women's softball, for instance, maybe not quite sure ready to go onto a course, but felt like they wanted to do a little bit more. We would kind of come in there and run some activity workshops for those. And so we just, I guess, tried to look at what was already going on in the recreational space and see where there were some gaps, and then see what we could do to add some value. And obviously over time, I guess now realistically we're looking at next year rather than this year, but that's still on our minds to be doing things like that moving forwards.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, nice. Well, as I say, it sounds like there's lots going on. It's we're all rooting for you guys. Hopefully you get out on the park. And yeah, it's good for our kind of Welsh contingent to know a little bit more about what's going on, and yeah, hopefully look forward to forming a really strong identity with the Storm. It's going to be an exciting kind of next 12-18 months, definitely.
Absolutely, yeah. And we're thrilled to have Wales in our region. Just genuinely, there's some really strong setups in Wales, and already there's a history of a lot of players from Wales coming to play for Storm. So it's great that that's now an official. You're officially with us now, and we can work together to do that, which is brilliant. So it's exciting. It's exciting times ahead.
Fab. Well, keep it up, and hope the baptism of fire, the flames go out on that fairly quickly, hopefully.
Absolutely.
And we'll keep in touch, definitely, for sure. We'd love to have you up in Wales at some stage.
Yeah, that'd be great. Absolutely. Good stuff.
Nice one. Well, thanks, Lisa. Thanks. All the best. I'll pause recording now, and we'll carry on for a bit then.
Great.